MKULTRA, the files that weren't supposed to exist. Picture a government warehouse in 1973. A man gives an order to burn everything. Boxes of files, thousands of them, fed into destruction. 20 years of work erased on purpose. He almost got all of it. Almost. One collection of documents sat in the wrong building, filed under the wrong category, and the shredders missed it. That mistake is the only reason you know any of this. Because for 2 decades, the CIA ran experiments on human beings without their consent, sometimes without their knowledge, and the plan was that no one would ever find out. And they nearly succeeded. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. It's the early 1950s. The Cold War is on and there's fear inside American intelligence that the enemy has learned something they haven't. Mind control. They looked at confessions coming out of Korea and became convinced that their rivals could reprogram a human being, wipe a mind, rebuild it. They didn't want to be left behind, so in 1953 a program was approved. The name was deliberately boring, MKUltra. The goal was simple to say and monstrous to carry out. Find out if you can take control of a person's mind. And here's the first thing they have to solve. If you're going to experiment on people, who do you use? The answer they landed on is the part that should make your skin crawl. They used people who couldn't fight back, prisoners, psychiatric patients, drug addicts, pulled from the margins of society, people whose word would never be believed against the word of the United States government. And they used it on people who had no idea it was happening at all. The drug at the center of it was LSD. They wanted to know if it could break someone open, loosen their mind enough to interrogate it, control it, rewrite it. So they dosed people, quietly. In one arm of the program, agents set up ordinary-looking safe houses. They lured people in and would give them LSD without telling them. Then they watched them from behind one-way glass to see what a human being does when their reality is coming apart and they don't know why. Think about that for a second. Someone walks into what they think is a normal evening, and a government employee is on the other side of a mirror, taking notes, while that person's mind dissolves. Nobody explained it to them. Nobody asked. Nobody was ever going to tell them. And this ran for years. But LSD was the only entry point, because the question underneath it all was bigger and darker. If you could break a mind, could you keep the person and throw the mind away? That question led to the worst of it. There was a psychiatrist, respected, prominent, funded through the program's money. He believed he could cure mental illness by erasing the slick mind and building a healthy one in its place. His method had 2 stages. First, tear the existing personality down. He did this with massive repeated electroshock and drugs that kept patients unconscious for weeks at a time. He called that stage depatterning. In plain language, it means wiping the person out. Some patients came out unable to remember their own children, unable to recall who they were. Then came the second stage. He'd play recorded messages on a loop for hours, for days, sometimes hundreds of thousands of repetition piped into a broken mind, trying to write a new person on the blank. People went into his care with depression and anxiety. They came out with pieces of themselves permanently gone. And most of them never knew they'd been a part of an experiment at all. They thought they were getting treatment. So how does something this size stay hidden? How do you run this for 20 years and keep it quiet? You already know part of the answer, but the full version is worse than a shredder. The cover was built into the design. The money didn't come with the CIA's name on it. It flowed through front organizations, fake foundations, and legitimate universities and hospitals that often had no idea whose money they were spending. Real doctors at real institutions did this work, funded by a source they couldn't see. That's how it hid in plain sight. It didn't look like a secret program. It looked like an ordinary medical research, scattered across dozens of respectable places. And when it finally wound down in the 1970s, the man in charge made the call to destroy the records, not lose them, not archive them, destroy them, so that no full accounting could ever be assembled. For a while, it worked. The program was over, the paper was ash, and the story was gone. Then 2 things happened that the CIA never planned for. The first was a leak. In the mid-1970s, reporting about illegal CIA activity forced Congress to start digging. Hearings opened, investigators started pulling threads, and that's when the second thing happened. The box. Remember, almost everything had been destroyed, but because of a filing error, a collection of financial records, roughly 20,000 pages, had been stored in the wrong place. It survived the purge by pure accident. When investigators found it, the program cracked open. It wasn't a whistleblower with a consensus that exposed MKUltra. It wasn't a hero. It was a clerical mistake, a misfiled box that the shredder never reached. Sit with that. The only reason this is public, the only reason the victims got even partial acknowledgement, the only reason you're hearing all of this, is that a bureaucrat filed something in the wrong drawer, which raised the question nobody in those hearings could answer. If the box had been filed correctly, would we know anything? Here's where it lands. MKUltra is real. It's not a theory. It was investigated by the United States Congress, admitted to by the CIA, and the surviving documents are public. You can read them yourself. And that's the actual lesson, and it's not the one the internet usually sells you. The point isn't that shadowy forces control everything, and the truth is forever out of reach. The point is the opposite, and somehow it's more unsettling. This was exposed by an accident, a single box in the wrong room. So the real question isn't whether the government keeps secrets. They do. That's documented. The question is simpler, and it's the thing that should keep you watching one more minute of history like this. How many of those boxes were actually filed correctly and burnt to ash?